Hello, folks. Thank you so much for joining me today for this interesting webinar on SalesIQ's newest and coolest feature, chatbots, or as we call them, smart bots. I am your host, Chris, and we'll be taking you through the setup, configuration, and activation of the bot, and also tell you how best to deploy it on your website. Feel free to use the Ask a Question option on your webinar screen and drop in a question as and when you get them. I promise they will all be answered together at the end of this webinar. So let's jump right in. For those of you who are new to Zoho or new to Zoho Sales IQ itself, I'm going to very briefly tell you that it has two simple components. A visitor analytics component that tells you everything from which page a visitor is looking at, to how they found your website, to whether they are a new or a returning visitor, and so on. The other module, the visitor engagement part, includes both the bot, which we're going to look at today, as well as the human operated chats, the normal chats your staff have with your website visitors, as well as audio calling capability, which is new to Sales IQ, which allows you to not just chat with visitors, but also make a call to them over the chat window, over the internet, without having to pay for cellular service. So when you combine visitor tracking with visitor engagement, you essentially get what Sales IQ does for a living. I don't need to try and market the visitor analytics part much because in all my years at Zoho, I have not met one customer who did not want to use that module of Sales IQ. I'm only seeing people who want more data, more analytics, more reports, and so on and so forth. So it's always more and nothing other than that. That's self-explanatory. If you do not understand your prospects or your customers, you will never be able to convert them into your customers. But when it comes to the engagement aspect, the visitor engagement aspect of Sales IQ, that's where folks commonly mention this. They do want to offer live chat to their website visitors, but do not have the time or human resources to manage the flood of inquiries that come in as a result. So this man, this animation, what he's thinking here is pretty much what quite a few of you are already thinking. But the good news is that's where Sales IQ's latest release comes into play. Set it up once and forget it. It will be your very own non-stop leads generating machine, all at no extra cost. Won't ask you for minimum wage or benefits, won't strike work, and will be consistent in performance. So yeah, that's the gist of why you would need a smart bot or a chat bot on your website. So how exactly can such a chatbot be used for your business? The majority of the questions that you get on your website are repetitive in nature and so can be easily automated. Program the bots with the questions that it is expected to see and offer options for a visitor to choose from to make things easy for them. And also restrict incorrect answers as well as typos in their responses. This is pretty much what we are going to do today with SalesIQ's smart bots. The objective is to automate repetitive questions from your side so it reduces the load for you and to also make things easy for the customer as a whole as well. So the primary benefit is obviously having the bot answer questions around the clock uh, during weekends, public holidays, uh, and even graveyard shifts that are not very popular. This is especially useful when you do business with overseas clients or customers. So that's the number one benefit. And of course, web forms have been around for a long time and they are pretty effective, no doubt. However, a bot can collect much better information as it does this in the form of a conversation, unlike forms that let people know upfront about how much data you require from them because they can see how many fields are there on the form. The bots won't reveal the questions it's going to ask in advance because it's a conversation. It's a developing conversation, and visitors are therefore unlikely to drop out of such conversations midway. So as people keep filling up a form, if they see another page and another page after that, it's highly likely that they would abandon filling it up altogether. So incomplete forms are going to be useless to you because the information is not going to reach you. The bot, on the other hand, engages in a conversation, and even if the visitor does leave midway, it will be able to at least hold and reserve the information that was collected thus far. So the next bit is a bit interesting. Let's say you're doing regular webinars on your website, like I am doing right now, and you want visitors to sign up for any one of them. In our case, we showed you a pop up, a banner, which you clicked and then filled up your information. But that was because you were already using our application. But what if you were completely new to Sales IQ? You just visited our website. Banners don't work all that good there. So in that case, what you can do is you can program the smart bot or the chatbot to ask such visitors a bunch of questions to find out their core interests. And based on that, offer a webinar recommendation. And while doing that, you can get their name and email address by telling them that you will send them the webinar sign up link or a confirmation link, and then link that information to apps like GoToWebinar, which we are using right now for this webinar. So even though this bot is built and hosted on Zoho Sales IQ, collects the visitors' information on your website, it is still able to push that information into a completely different service like GoToWebinar or even Zoom for that matter. A simple sign up form on your website, while it is effective, cannot offer suggestions based on your visitors' interests. So if you have three, four different types of visitors targeted at different types of people, some could be your customers, some could be your vendors, some could be contractors, and so on. You would normally expect them to know who they are and choose the correct option on the form, which may not always work out correctly. So in such cases, especially, a bot like this, which can ask the right questions and give a bunch of limited options for visitors to choose from, and depending on several such options that they choose from, is able to determine what type of customer or vendor or contractor they are and give them the appropriate webinar sign up form or directly sign them up for that specific webinar. That kind of automation can also be done on these bots that we're going to look at today. So it's not just going to be useful for conversations, it's also going to be useful for automating this. Otherwise, you may have to call them up, send them an email, find out if this is actually the webinar they were looking for, and so on and so forth. So all that extra bit of manual labor can be cut down by having the system automated. And of course, the last bit is uh, if you have an FAQ section, a frequently asked question, as they call it, on your website, you can program the bot to respond to different questions with different answers. Only if the bot is unable to answer all a customer's questions or if the complexity of the question is too high, the chat or the bot can be programmed to transfer the conversation to a human operator. This will act as a filtration system and reduce the number of chats you guys get daily by eliminating repetitive questions, ending up sending you only interesting ones that require your attention. So, all these questions the bot is going to be able to answer, you can just copy them from your existing knowledge base and program it into the bot. Uh, we'll look into all of that in detail. So, here's a sample chatbot or a smart bot taking questions on real estate properties. This is just a simulation, it's a made up website. So, a real estate website, for example, has several sections, several types of properties, several options for whatever property that you do choose from. So, navigating through all of them would definitely be a big challenge. And that is where bots become really useful. And as you can see from the screenshot, uh, there are options that a visitor can choose on the screen, or maybe they can type and send them. Uh, so you can see the person has mentioned that they're looking to buy a home, not a commercial property. Okay, now that we have established that they're looking to buy a home, the next question that we can ask them is how many bedrooms you're looking for. They're given an answer for that. And then you go on asking them about other things like do they need a garage, a swimming pool, and things like that. Or do they need a house that is in close proximity to a school or a college, and so on. So these can help the bot give them a bunch of recommendations rather than expecting the customers themselves to choose. So these are all lots of automations that you can do. And once the bot has narrowed it down to just a few options from, say, dozens of them or hundreds of them, it can simply very subtly ask the visitor if they would like to schedule an appointment to meet someone, a real estate agent, and so on. Otherwise, all of these people are going to be calling you, and you will be taking phone calls around the clock, which is not particularly efficient. So, I'm sure all of this that you've seen so far has gotten your attention, and you'll want to start on it right away. You will have questions on how to train the bot, I'm sure, and whether any extensive coding is required to train it or not. So, we'll address that now. To reduce the amount of time it takes for you to deploy a simple smart bot on your website, we've already programmed a few of them. These are available in our bot gallery or bot template gallery, which I will show you shortly. Just choose a bot from there that aligns closely with what your business does. Edit the questions it asks, add or reduce a few lines, and you're already ready with your first draft that you can then later on fine tune to your liking. This is just the gist of how this entire chatbot is going to work out. And on this page that you can see on the screen, you can actually see some of the ready to use bots that I was talking about. You can see the scheduler bot that already comes integrated with Google Calendar out of the box to allow the bot to directly schedule appointments for you on your calendar. So if you're a real estate agent or a salesman, the bot will keep on working around the clock to collect visitor information, their phone number or email address, where they live, what they are looking for, things like that, and then keep scheduling appointments with you for a phone call or a site visit and things like that. They just keep coming into your uh, Google Calendar. As and when you come into work daily, you will see your calendar populated with new appointments. You just call those people up. It's, imagine the amount of automation that this does. It almost makes sure that you wouldn't need a secretary to respond to these repetitive questions and tasks. The lead generation bot, for example, or the sales bot that you can see there, is very good at collecting visitors' basic area of interest, their name, email address, contact number, and if necessary, a preferred date for you to contact them, a follow up basically. So we'll be adding almost a dozen bots to this collection. So you're not just restricted to these six that you see on the screen. And let's just say that you do actually choose one of these ready to bots from the gallery. You will see a description similar to this. This sort of roughly explains what this format of the bot can do for you by connecting to either by collecting the data and connecting that to either your Zoho CRM or Salesforce CRM. So those of you who are reading what's there on the screen, I'm just going to give you a bit to go over that because this is an actual screenshot from inside the application. Okay, so you can also use this chatbot to proactively message your website visitors based on which page they're currently looking at or how they found your website, for example. Let's say you were running an ad campaign or uh, a social media campaign and they visit your website. The bot can ask them questions that sort of continue to remind them why they clicked that ad in the first place and came to your website. It keeps the curiosity growing. And as you can see from this screenshot or image, the visitor does not even have to type an answer to the question. All they have to do is merely choose one of the two or three or any number of buttons that are on the chat window with their mouse pointer. That's very efficient. And it would make for a very quick and an efficient conversation for the both of you. Imagine that people don't have to type anything, all they have to do is just click. That speeds up things by a lot. And before you think if just a button or merely text messages are the only way to communicate between a visitor and this bot, let me take the liberty to prove you wrong. Sliders like these can let you get an approximate count of, say, the number of units of something that a customer wants. Let's say you're an e-commerce website that sells stationery. How many pens or pencils does a customer want? They can use a slider like this to give you an estimate. Or you want to know how many people work in the company. That's also possible. Maybe you're an auto dealership and you want to know what is the budget that this particular customer has in mind. They can choose the range, and the bot will be able to show them results that fit within that price range they can afford. And this that you see on the screen, a calendar basically, allows your visitors to enter anything from their date of birth, uh, their date of registration when they became your customer or something like that, or even their preferred date for a site visit, or even book an appointment with you. So it's a normal calendar. You can use it to not just book meetings but also other things. Let's say that you need to collect the visitor's date of birth to process certain things or to compare it with government documents and so on, or maybe the kind of online gaming uh, that your website does as age restrictions as per the laws of your country. You want visitors to provide their date of birth so you can validate them. Any number of possibilities. Normally, you would want them to do that on a form, but the bot can do that in the form of a conversation. You can get the information here. If you need to book an appointment, there is an option to choose a time, the time zone, any of that. And soon, you can even do home deliveries. If anything, from furniture sets to pizzas using this bot. Location services that will allow visitors on both PCs, laptops, as well as mobile devices to share their precise location on a map which will allow you or your staff to make a direct door delivery, is a real possibility. This is at the moment under internal testing and will be activated for you for all the customers shortly. So now that you have seen the different kinds of capabilities that the bots have, we will next be looking at how exactly to implement them and then activate it. But before we do that, remember we talked about how there are 6 different types of bots that are already available in the gallery, which you can click, edit, and customize to your liking. I also did mention that we'll be adding many more bots, and several of them are nearing completion already. But we want to get an idea as to how many of you prefer which kind of bots, so we can focus on those sectors uh, first and pay extra attention to them to making them better and probably even speed up its release so it's released ahead of all the other bots that are on the way. So I'm going to start this poll, which you guys see on the screen. There are about 5 options on the screen. The question, of course, is what kind of ready-made bots should we next add to the bot gallery inside SalesIQ? There are 5 options, like I said. The first one is a real estate focused bot. The second one covers the hotel and hospitality industry. The third one covers e commerce websites that sell any number of stuff online. The fourth, of course, covers HR and recruitment services. So if you have a website or a careers page, people can go there, use the bot to submit their resume or find out what jobs are available, find out the requirements for the job, and things like that. Sorry, I had to explain that. It isn't obvious. The last one, of course, is travel and tourism. So if you're running a travel and tourism agency and your visitors may not know which tour or cruise to choose from, the bot can collect their preferences and then suggest a tour package or a cruise package that would best suit them. So do go ahead and pick that. Do understand that none of these 5 sectors are available inside your template gallery as yet. So whatever you do choose, we will focus on them first. Pretty much drop everything for now, release this first, and then go ahead and release the others as well. About 12 law bots are under construction, various stages of construction. So go ahead and vote. I see about 80% of you have already voted. That's very good. The last 20%, go ahead. You just have a few seconds left. So I see good traction on the e-commerce and the HR recruitment parts. That's really nice. Of course, those of you who have been on eBay or Amazon would know how difficult it is to scroll through and find things. But because you have been to those websites so often, you know where the buttons are and you just click them subconsciously. But doesn't work for other small and medium businesses. People will be new to your website and they might need some help. So that's a good suggestion. I also see good traction for restaurants and hotels. Yeah, booking rooms, booking, uh, maybe even getting a restaurant recommendation. There is something interesting. We have an integration with Zomato that I'm going to show you about later in this webinar. That's very interesting, which would work for this restaurant suggestion that we were talking about. So 10 more seconds before we close this poll. And we are done. That's an impressive 96%. Almost all of you voted. So thank you so much. I wonder why the remaining 4% didn't vote. Maybe the options you're looking for weren't there. All right. So let's continue. So now the last part to actually set this board up. I'm going to toggle to another screen where my Sales IQ dashboard is already available. We've already gone to Sales IQ's settings screen where most of you would have seen this new section called bots. And once you're there, I've already created a bot here, but that's fine. In your case, if you haven't created one, it will just ask you to create one. So I'm just going to add a new bot, and that takes you to this screen. Once you're here, it is mandatory to give this bot a name. Just like how when you add human operators to your account, they have an alias or a last name that your visitors see, the bot also needs a name. For one, during reports and other analytics data that you pull up, it will help you see how many chats and conversations the bot handled versus your human operator. So it needs a name. We just can't call it bot everywhere. And another thing is that when your visitors are conversing with the bot, this will look more personalized. So I'm just going to make up a very, very boring name. I'm calling it a test bot. It is also necessary now to give it a description just below the name. Remember that both the bot's name as well as the description will be publicly shown to all your website visitors that talk to the bot. All of them will see it. So just make sure that you don't choose any uh, deeply disturbing names for the bot or name it after your ex, for example. Okay, so just give it any description or maybe what it does or how it can help, something like that. Just make up anything. Next, once this is done, you must actually link the bot to a website. This is crucial. And for most of you who have just one website, this is a no-brainer. You just link it to the only website that you guys have. But for those with many websites, such as this account of mine, you would need to decide which website this bot needs to be connected to. Now, you won't find an option that says all websites because it's for the simple reason that the questions and answers that you create here cannot be the same for all the websites. It's just not possible. Each of them have a different name. They may be built for a different purpose. So if the bot asks questions on one website that were built for another website, that would make absolutely no sense to your visitors. So to avoid such a mistake, there is no select all option here. So you can link one bot at a time to one website. So the number of bots that you can create varies depending on your subscription. So in this case, I'm just going to link it to one specific website that I have. If that website itself is already linked to a specific department or a team in my company, then this automatically goes up. Otherwise, what I would need to do is I would have to choose. Let me see. Yeah. So just like in this example, in this particular website, I have two departments linked to it, one for tech support, another one for sales and billing. If you're using this as an example, then if you feel that, let's say, tech support gets lots of repetitive questions in my business case, so the bot can take care of that. Sales and billing, I mean, we don't get all that many inquiries anyway, so we human operators can take care of that. If you think that way, then you can just de-link or sever the connection between that department and the bot. So anyone on this website who chooses the tech support department alone will be speaking to the bot, whereas those who choose the sales and billing department will connect to one of your staff members. So that's all up to you. to choose. So once that is done, you can see this option here that says choose visitor type. You now have the option to automatically trigger a greeting or an offer of assistance from the bot to your website visitors if they match certain conditions. So, what kind of conditions are we talking about? Well, they could be visitors who return to your website often, returning visitors as we call them. I'll show you that. So, you can see the title says criteria to trigger the bot. So we were talking about returning visitors. They're usually good choices because nobody keeps coming back to your website unless they were looking to buy something there. So returning visitors, if you're going with that example, or let's say you were running a campaign. Uh, so it could be a Google Ads campaign. People search for certain words on Google search. An advertisement to your website shows up. They click that. Or it could be a referral customer, it could be someone from social media websites which cover anything from Facebook, Twitter, Quora, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, many of them. So almost all of these platforms are covered. So if your business is listed in all these platforms, people come from there. You can have the bot greet them and ask them, hey there, are you here after, are you here to avail the discount coupon? Let me help you with that, or something like that. And anything that you can think of. And if you want to configure advanced conditions, let's say if a visitor from a paid advertisement comes to your website, I don't want to message them right away. I want them to go over my website, explore it, and only if they've spent a certain amount of time on my website do I want to trigger only those people a message. So what you can do is you can click and, which I just clicked, which will help you add another condition. And here you can just type the word time for time on site, and you can choose anything that you want. So I'm going to say, let's say 45 seconds. Yeah, 45 seconds. So what happens is instead of the bot attempting to message everybody and trying to speak to all of them, which it can, by the way, but if you want to be more selective, have the bot behave more exclusively, then yeah, you can do this too. So you can say that only the select set of visitors on the website who match these two conditions alone should get the trigger pop-up. Otherwise, if you simply say, let people come to my website, I don't care where they come from, all I want to do is message them and get them to respond, use the bot, because we can use the bot to collect their information and get back to them, promote the services, and so on. Uh, yeah, so you can go ahead and do that as well. So here in this case, in that case, what you're going to do is you're going to choose the option time on site, which I just did. And depending on what's your time preference, you can choose any one of these options. Now, remember this important thing. A common mistake that many people do is they set the time to be too low. They set it too low. By too low, what I mean is that they set things like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and so on. So basically, what happens is the bot triggers a message as soon as these people land on your website, and eventually they will start interacting with the bot right away. They're not going to go over what's on your website, they're not going to read what's there, they're simply going to chat right away. So that's not particularly smart, I would say. You need to make people read what's there on the website, engage with what's on the website, and only then should you be able to trigger that. Only then it is going to be useful for your business. Okay. So now that we have explored the different trigger conditions that are available, let's go to the other one. So this option, set working hours, allows you to control whether you want the bot to handle customer questions around the clock, which is the default option, or just after your working hours, or during the business hours, which is during your working hours. So the way it is set up right now at the moment is that your visitors can only leave you an offline message on your chat window when you guys are offline. But after the bot has been activated, they can actually chat with the bot and continue to get their questions answered long after you guys leave the office. So you don't have to follow up the next working day with the bunch of offline messages that you guys get, because there are no offline messages as the bot took care of all of them. So this is something that you also have to choose, but it is already default to 24 by 7, which means the bot will be the first thing that your visitors will speak to. The chats won't directly come to you. So if you set up the bot and if you did not change this and are wondering why the chat conversations have reduced, it's not that people have stopped using the chat, it's just that the bot is handling them and you're not getting any. And finally, here, you need to configure whether the visitor should have an option to connect to a human operator in case in case they feel the bot is unable to answer the questions. I'll show you a sample. I have a demo website right here, and you can see a chat window here. A simple, easy to use chat window. I'm just going to start the conversation by saying hi or hello, anything that you want. So I do that. Normally, this is when a human operator will, get alerted, step in, and then answer my question. But in this case, you can see how the bot that I created already, if you guys remember, there was already a bot on my website that kicked in right away. So the initial greeting messages are there. It now asks me what I want to do. That's all fine. But what's important is, let me zoom in, is this line: want to connect with a human, yes or no. So if I click yes, I will be connected to a human operator right away. This will be mostly used by people if the bot is unable to answer them, or if the option they're trying to click isn't available here. So in those cases, those exceptional chats will get redirected to you. Otherwise, if you prefer that you are not going to be available to answer chats in the first place, maybe you're a one-man business or you guys just get way too many chats as it is, you can disable this option so that this line here doesn't show up. People will not be able to uh, directly talk to a human operator. In that case, you can configure the bot to probably say something like, sorry, I'm unable to answer your questions. One of our staff members will get back to you via email. Can I have your email address, please? That way, you also get their email address, and you can also go through the conversation and see if the bot has answered everything correctly, whether you actually need to follow up. If you judge it as essential, then you can just send them an email. It doesn't have to be a live chat. So that's another convenient thing that you can do. So that last option sort of completes the general bot configuration and setup. Once that is all done, just scroll down to the bottom of the page to program the bot responses. So that's what you're going to do here. Once you click that, you will be taken to this bot builder screen. Okay, don't be scared by the code. It's harmless, it doesn't bite. What you need to do is you can go right away to this option on the top right corner that says choose from templates to find all the 6 bot samples that I told you about earlier. Uh, what I can do is I would probably pick what seems to be most people's favorite, the sales and the lead generation bot. So You can read the description here already, and we'll just skip that and just go and click choose at the bottom. So it's now loading the entire script or the backend programming for this particular bot, okay, which is available in this default template. And you're on a page called Message Handler, and you will be able to edit all the text that's available right here. So you can see that person says, the question says, hello, what can I help you with today? You don't like that. You want to change that, just click this text, change it to how can I help you uh, today. Hit save, and we're not we have not published it on the website yet. So what you can do is you can just test it. Okay, ignore the first message because it's a trigger which we already set up. We'll come to that part yet. This is where the actual chat conversation happens. After I sent hi, you can see that this was the originally configured message, but since I changed the word here, it also changed here. What you see here on the right side, this little chat window, it's a simulator that allows you to see how these conversations will look like to your website visitors before you actually published it on your website. I haven't published it on the website yet. So I'm using this simulator to test how uh, these conversations will work. So there's a whole list of text in clear English that you can go through. Uh, you can just change the text here, see how it looks here, and uh, modify it. So that's what's there on the message handler, very briefly. And on the top left corner here, where it says message handler, if you click that drop down, you can see what's called a trigger handler. I'm going to click that now. And once I click that, the page changes to the trigger handler. And what you see here is the first question, the first trigger message that's automatically sent to a customer. Remember, we saw under what conditions the bot can automatically message a visitor or what kind of visitors it should target. So those people will get whatever message that's configured here. This is the first trigger message. The trigger handler section here is designed to only process this first message alone. This is all it will do. Once somebody responds to this message, chooses any one of the options, it goes back to the message handler section and continues the conversation there. So all the subsequent questions and responses will be handled in the message handler section. The message handler will also handle questions and answers in case you don't set up a trigger as well, as in the case of my website. Remember, I had to actually type in something and start the chat. I did not configure a trigger for this website. So if you did configure a trigger, you can decide what that first trigger message should be, okay? Because the configuration outside this screen only allowed you to decide who should get the trigger, but not what kind of trigger. That, the second part, is done here. Just click here and then enter the message here. That's done in the trigger handler. The entire conversation itself, all the questions, all the answers, are processed in the message handler section. So that leaves us with the last one, the context handler. The context handler, what it does is it processes all the inputs that the bot received from a visitor for all the questions that were there in the message handler here. This helps the bot determine the visitor's status, like what kind of customer he is, paid, or what is he looking for, things like that, or the type of question that they're asking. So remember the real estate example that we saw earlier. We established that the person was looking for a home, not a commercial property. We also established that he was looking for a three-bedroom house, and so on. So, based on all these conditions, if you want the bot to process the response to all these different questions, put them together and figure out what exactly this guy wants, those kind of processing can be done only in the context handler. Uh, think of the context handler as a sort of a rudimentary microchip brain of this entire uh, deluge bot. The script that powers this bot is called Deluge, and it is a proprietary Zoho programming language. So, an internal name that we give for this bot is just the Deluge bot. So, once you're done editing all the text here, all the conversations here, you must save each one of these handlers: message handler, trigger, and context handler. The failure to do so would result in the changes made on any of these handlers do not take effect. And until you save each of these handlers, what will happen is that, let me save this bot. If I go back here, it will say yet to be published. Many of you guys would have experienced this problem. It's actually not a problem. It's because you have not saved all the handlers individually. This bot that I already created, which is working on this website here, doesn't have that message. Only this one does. Why? If I go into that and show you, none of these three handlers here have that red color star or asterisk symbol next to them. However, the new bot that I created, if I go down, all the handlers have this. So it means that this symbol basically means that you haven't published these handlers. So all the changes you've made have not yet been updated. So what you have to do is click each of the handlers one by one and then publish. I just published message handler, and you can see the star is no longer there. The red star is gone. Now I go to trigger handler. I do the same thing. Publish it. I get a confirmation. Now in the drop down, trigger handler doesn't have the star anymore. Finally, context handler. I click publish, and it's all gone. Now, if I go back to the previous screen, it doesn't say yet to be published anymore. So briefly put, this is how you select a bot, edit it, and then save it. You need to publish each handler one by one, and only then it will start working on your website. So this sort of completes your bot's entire setup, and you can now go to your website to test it. Before that, of course, you can also test it here inside the simulator. So to summarize what we saw today, we learned how to name the bot and also map or sync it to the respective websites and departments that you guys have. We also learned how to configure whether the bot should work around the clock or only when you guys are offline, which means when you're online, the chats will keep coming directly to you and you guys will answer them. But when you guys all go offline, earlier people would leave offline messages for you, which will then get emailed. But now the bot will be answering them. We also learned how to choose a bot from an existing template. There are 6 options. You guys also very clearly indicated, decisively indicated what's the next bot that you want to see. We will speed that up. That will be the 7th bot in the line. We will eventually add 12 more and keep expanding that. So all you have to do is click one bot, edit the content and the questions in it, and you will be good to go. And once you have chosen a bot and edited the context, it is necessary to make sure that you click and choose every single handler and publish them all one by one. Only then will the bot truly reflect all the changes that you've made. And finally, review the bot one last time by going to your own website, starting a chat yourself, wait for the bot to answer it, choose the different answers, and go through the conversations. When you take this role, as your customer, as your visitor, simulating them, you will understand what exactly the bot is doing to them. Based on this, you can go back, edit the responses, edit the questions, and so on. So once that is done, it is also necessary to remember another thing. When compared to the chatbots that are already available in the market, that are mostly designed to be only a stopgap solution until a human operator can take over, Zoho's smart bot can actually look up or update data across different Zoho or non-Zoho services, understand the type of customers it is dealing with, and then provide a targeted support to them. So basically, it does not just offer a breadth of features; it also offers a depth of capabilities as well. So, what exactly does it do by connecting with other services? I'll just show you. You have something called Zoho integrations here. I'll just show you a sample. Okay. So if you just drag and drop them here, this is not the right place, but I'm just showing you. It Let me put it somewhere here so you can see it clearly. So you just drag and drop this. So it will ask you what kind of variable it's supposed to be. And once you've chosen that, it then allows you to integrate with multiple Zoho services. So you have Zoho reports, subscriptions, mail, inventory, so many of them, even from SalesIQ. Recruit, for example, we were talking about a candidate recruitment bot. So somebody had already submitted their resume. They come back to your website, speak to this bot. One of the options on the bot says, check the status of your application, for example. The person clicks that, and then the bot can ask them for a reference ID or a contact ID or something that you gave them. They type in that. The bot can just look up that information on Zoho Recruit and find out the status of their application. So let's just take Recruit. Once I choose Zoho Recruit, let me zoom in. The drop down allows me to do different things. Upload file. So in this case, if it's a new candidate, I can just ask him for his name, email, which position he's applying to, and then update that information, or maybe upload the CV or the resume that he's giving me. Or in the example that we were looking at earlier, a person was just checking the status of the application. You can just use search records, and you can go through the data that you have for this candidate's profile in Recruit and find out, what to do there. This is one thing, but what's even more important is, or what's something that most people like, is Zoho CRM. So I'll also show you that as well. So in this case, I'm going to choose Zoho CRM. You speak to a customer, the bot speaks to a customer or a potential, and it gets some information from them. Based on that, it determines that this person is actually a lead because they are interested in buying some of your services. So in Zoho CRM, you can then say, do different things. I'm just showing you some of the options here. Uh, if it's a promising person, you can create a new record for them, or if they're already there in your system and based on the new questions you think they are a potential lead, you can also convert them from whatever status they are now in uh, to a lead, or you can just create a new record for them. So once you choose create here, it allows you to choose which module in Zoho CRM you want them to be created as a new record. uh, Leads, contacts, potentials, deals, or any other name that you guys have given to the module, a custom module that you guys have. So that's all up to you. You can just tell the bot here that this person that you chatted with, they should be updated here, and so on. So this is one sample. And if you want to integrate with non-Zoho services, then you can use the webhook option here. and you need to find out which service it is. If you go to their API directory on their website, they will tell you that to do external integration through a webhook, you need to use this URL, and so on. There's a detailed integration procedure given to you guys on their website. You just have your web developer include that here, and it allows this bot to communicate with that service or application. So integration with both Zoho services as well as non-Zoho services. And what kind of integration is this? It could be a simple search level integration where it looks up data and confirms whether the information provided by the visitor is correct or not. It could be an update type integration where it collects new information and updates an existing record. It can also be a new record creation integration where, based on the interaction with the customer, it creates a new record, a lead or a contact in CRM. It could be a new candidate profile on Zoho Recruit, anything for that matter. And we also offer ready-made integration with some popular services. This webhook will be useful to integrate with third-party services, but among those third-party services, based on popular demand, we already offer uh, out-of-the-box integration with some of them. That you can explore by clicking this button at the bottom, Manage Connections. And once inside Manage Connections, I'm just waiting for the page to load. It says Create a connection, and then it allows you to pick a service. So you have different uh, possibilities to link here. So remember, we spoke about Zomato. So let's say you have a bot on your website that can collect information from visitors, such as what kind of cuisine they are interested in, whether they are looking for lunch or dinner, whether they would like to make a reservation, and so on. So, based on all these preferences that the visitor has provided, SalesIQ's smart bot can send that information to Zomato, for example, and then find a list of restaurants that match that condition and show that data to the visitor on the chat window itself. And maybe the visitor can click that and make a reservation. Or maybe Zomato would prefer that you call them, so you just click a button, shows the phone number, the customer then calls them. Different integrations like that exist. So yeah, MailChimp, Slack. Whenever you miss a visitor offline, you want an alert to be sent to your Slack messaging system. You can get that alert. The system simply says, "Oh, you just got a message from this customer who's a VIP customer. Do you want to follow up?" Any message that you configure, it's all up to you to set up and configure. There are endless possibilities that you can do. Of course, if you're a Zoho One customer or a Zoho customer and you're using Zoho's equivalent of Slack, Zoho Click, there's already integration available with that. I did show you the list of Zoho apps that we already integrate with. So if you just click that, you can see so many services from different Zoho services listed here. And not just Zoho alone, Zoho's sister enterprises, Manage Engine, they're also all listed here. SDB, that is Service Desk Plus. All of them you can find here. Zoho Desk, Projects, Zoho Click, any one of them, you can find them here. So once you make this connection and you link the bot to it, it will be able to send information to that service, get information from that service if they allow that, update information that's already there, and any number of things. So that's the level of integration that you can do by connecting this bot. Even if SalesIQ as a whole doesn't integrate with those external services, the bot can. And finally, the last bit, just like how SalesIQ can be added to websites and the bot can be activated on it, we can also integrate SalesIQ's live chat to mobile apps that your company or business already has. It's kind of similar to the live chat button that you see inside let's say the Uber app or Yelp, for instance. Uh, what's more, you can now activate the smart bot on the chat window inside that mobile app as well. So your customers using your mobile app will now be able to get answers from a bot from inside the app itself. They don't need to leave that to get to your website or email you or call you. The bot will take care of it right there on their phone. To get an idea of exactly how this would work on a mobile device, let's take a look at this little video. It's taken from the perspective of your customers who would use your company's mobile app. So this is just a brief simulation. So you can see it asked a question as soon as the chat was opened on your mobile app, and the same multiple options that you saw on the website are also shown here. Once a visitor makes a choice, based on the choice, it asks them multiple questions. In this case, the visitor just chose uh, that he's interested in sedan and that he's interested in buying a new sedan and mentioned the price range that he can afford. Based on all these conditions, the bot, you can see, uh, I just paused the video so you can see clearly, has given him a recommendation, this specific model of the Mercedes. And once the visitor has seen this, clicked the photo, read the review, and all of that, they get an option to either book a test drive right away or call a sales agent. So, depending on what the customer chooses, we can then have a bunch of questions. In this case, they chose a test drive, and then they're able to choose a date for the test drive in order to book an appointment right from the mobile device. And once that is chosen and submitted, it collects their phone number. And once that is done, you can see that it has scheduled an appointment for them. At this point, you can either have this information forwarded to a salesman's Google Calendar or Outlook or something like that, so they know they have an appointment, or it can create a ticket on Zoho Desk or Zendesk, and it's assigned automatically to a sales agent, so he knows to follow up. And in addition to that, you can integrate with external services that allow you to send SMS automatically. So the bot will send that service a signal along with the phone number, and then you can send the customer an SMS confirmation that your test drive has been scheduled. Please report to this dealership located in this area at this time, and so on. Or you can connect it to other services like Telegram and Slack, so the customer gets an update as well. So this is just again a sample. And let's try another format of the conversation. In this case, they scroll and choose the option I need assistance. And then it asks what type of assistance. Remember, this is an auto dealership bot, ends an Autobot. So the visitor chooses roadside assistance and that they requested a tow vehicle to come pick them up. The visitor is now able to share the pickup location on the map. Remember, we talked about it earlier. It's under development and will be released shortly. So once the location has been shared, the bot is able to collect that information and push it to whichever service that you want so that a ticket or an incident report can be filed and the respective department can take care of that. So that completes our introduction to Zoho bots.